Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing good. तो आज के इस वीडियो में हम करने वाले हैं हमारा लाइन बाय लाइन explanation of the chapter The Lost Spring written by Anees Jung. So guys, before we start the chapter, जैसे कि हम हमेशा करते हैं, we'll just study. I'll give a brief introduction of what the chapter is all about. तो जैसे कि हम देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे Lost Spring है, उसके साथ में लिखा हुआ है Stories of Stolen Childhood. Now what does it mean? इसके लिखने से ऑथर क्या हमें बताना चाह रहे हैं? The author is actually trying to tell us, देखिए स्प्रिंग क्या होता है? स्प्रिंग इज अ सीजन ऑफ ब्लूमिंग, जब नए फ्लावर्स आते हैं, बड्स ब्लूम करते हैं. सो इन दैट केस यहाँ पे अनीश जंग ने शी हैज कंपेयर्ड द स्प्रिंग सीजन टू द चाइल्डहुड ऑफ एन इंडिविजुअल. जैसे कि हम जानते हैं that the childhood of an individual forms the foundation of its personality. कैसे? क्योंकि चाइल्डहुड एक ऐसा ड्यूरेशन है जब एक बच्चा अपना स्किल सीखता है, नॉलेज सीखता है, बहुत सारे इसमें स्ट्रेंथ्स होते हैं, फिजिकल एबिलिटीज होती हैं, डिफरेंट वेरिएशंस होते हैं. इनोसेंस, बेसिकली हमारा इनोसेंस दर्शाता है हमारा चाइल्डहुड. सो इन दैट केस अनीश जंग इस चैप्टर से बताना चाह रही है स्टोरीज ऑफ स्टोलन चाइल्डहुड, यानी कि वो चाइल्डहुड जो कि एक्चुअली सब बच्चों के लिए सेम नहीं होता, जो सब इंडिविजुअल्स को एक जैसा नहीं मिलता. So in this case, the story में अनीश जंग, what is she trying to portray? उसमें इस चैप्टर में अनीश जंग ने ऐसे सोसाइटी, ऐसे बच्चों के बारे में बात की है, those who are overburdened by the poverty, जो कि पुअर होने के कारण या फिर ऐसे सेक्शन में रहने के कारण जहाँ पे उनको बेसिक अमेनिटीज नहीं प्रोवाइड हो पाती, वो अपने सर्वाइवल के लिए उनका चाइल्डहुड उन्हें छोड़ना पड़ता है. They have to lose their innocence, they have to lose their carefreeness, they have to lose all the privileges they can get out of their lives. तो हम इस चैप्टर में दो स्टोरीज पढ़ने वाले हैं, one after the other. और वो दो स्टोरीज में हमें अनीश जंग ने बताया है कि हमें, like we children, we are so privileged, we don't know about this, or we don't acknowledge our luxury that we're getting. We don't acknowledge whatever we have with ourselves. But इसे पढ़ने के बाद I guess we all will have to now stop and think at one point of time कि हम अपनी हमारी लाइफ में क्या क्या चीजें हैं जो हमें thankfully मिली हुई हैं, and we should acknowledge them, we should appreciate them, और क्या क्या चीजें हैं जो इन बच्चों की लाइफ से मिसिंग है, which they have to struggle a lot to live their life to for their survival. So let's start reading the chapter. आज की हमारा स्टोरी है, जो पहली स्टोरी है हमारी, that is about a rag picker. रैग पिकर के बारे में तो आप सब लोगों ने सुना ही होगा. The rag pickers are the people who picks up garbage. Rag pickers कुछ ऐसे होते हैं, the people who picks up garbage from your neighborhood or from the societies, from the localities. तो आज ऐसे ही rag picker की stories हम पढ़ने वाले हैं. That is, and the main protagonist of the story is साहिब आलम, जिसे हम साहिब भी कह सकते हैं. So we'll study about Sahib Alam, who is actually a rag picker, and we'll see what his story teaches us. So the first story is, sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I asked Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. So here the narrator, she says that जब मैं साहिब से रोज मिलती हूँ, I see साहिब daily on a daily basis, and I asked him, why do you do this? तुम ये क्यों करते हो? When I encountered him, he was scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps. That means he was hunting for something, he was finding for gold in garbage dumps. अब यहाँ पे जो gold है, इससे क्या मतलब है? Gold means something valuable, कुछ काम का, something useful, and that useful can be money, some clothes, some footwear, or anything, जो भी उसके use का हो सके. Why do you do this? I asked Sahib. She says, I asked Sahib, मैं साहिब से पूछा, whom I see every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps in my neighborhood, जो कि मेरे neighborhood के garbage dumps में कुछ ना कुछ ढूंढता रहता है. I asked him, why do you do this? तुम ये सब क्यों करते हो? Sahib left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. Now Sahib, he left his home long ago, बहुत पहले अपना घर छोड़ के आ चुका था, which was set amidst, that means which was among the green fields of Dhaka. Dhaka, I must tell you, is the capital of Bangladesh. His home is not even a distant memory. He says, the author says that his home is not even a distant memory. That means Sahib के लिए वो कोई बहुत पुरानी याद नहीं है. He has not forgotten his home. He still remembers from where he has come. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him. The author says why they were here, why they have left their home, because there were many storms that had swept away their homes. Their homes were destroyed. वो लोग destroy हो चुके थे उनके homes. कहाँ पे? Storms में बहुत कुछ हवाएं आई थी, तूफान आ गया था जिसमें उनके सारे घर बर्बाद हो गए थे. That is why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. And that is why they came to the big city where he now lives, so that they could earn something, they can survive. I have nothing else to do, he mutters looking away. Now he mutters, that means he says, वो पीछे मुड़ के देखते हैं, he says, I have nothing else to do. मेरे पास और कुछ करने के लिए नहीं. Go to school. I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. Now, the author says, मैंने ऐसे ही बोल दिया, I didn't even realize. Glibly का मतलब she never realized whatever she was saying, and she said just in the, you know, in the moment, just go to school, school job. And after that, when she said that the मैंने चीज बोल दिया, I never realized that how hollow my advice was. तो किसी काम की नहीं थी, because people, children like Sahib-e-Alam, they were not able to afford the school. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. Now he said, मेरे आसपास मेरे neighborhood में कोई school नहीं है. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they will build one, I will definitely go. If I start a school, will you come? Now she asked him. She asked Sahib-e-Alam, अगर मैं कोई school start करती हूँ, will you come? I asked half jokingly. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. Now she said, although I was not serious when I was asking him, if I start a school, will you come? Kya tum आओगे? He was very excited. He got very happy and he said, of course, मैं जरूर आऊँगा. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. So she says, after a few days, I met him, वो मुझे मिला, and he came running up to me, भागते हुए मेरे पास आया, and he asked me, is your school ready? क्या आपका school अब ready है? क्या मैं आ सकता हूँ? And she said, no, it takes longer to build a school. She says, नहीं, अभी time लगता है school build करने में. And she said, while I was saying that, I was really embarrassed. मुझे बहुत शर्म आ रही थी. Why? Because I made a promise that I never meant. That was never meant. That was never going to accomplish. मैंने कुछ ऐसा promise किया था जो शायद मैं कभी पूरा करने ही नहीं वाली थी. That was just a fake promise. वो तो मैंने ऐसे ही बोल दिया था. I never meant to fulfill it. But promises like mine abound in every corner of this bleak world. But she says, मेरे जैसे promises न जाने कितने लोग उनके साथ करते होंगे. God knows how many people would have done such kind of promises. Abound in every corner of this bleak world. Children, bleak world means their gloomy world filled with dust, which has no hope, no future. So she says, I don't know. I'm really embarrassed why I made this promise. But she says, मेरे जैसे promises न जाने कितने लोग उनसे करते होंगे और कितने ही ऐसे promises उनके bleak world में घूमते होंगे. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of Universe, he would have hard time believing it. Now the author says, after months of knowing him, after knowing him for months, after seeing him every day, going here and there and talking to him, I thought, let me ask him his name. Uska naam pucha jata hai. And she says his name was Sahib-e-Alam. And she said that he does not know what it means. Uska naam ka matlab nahi pata tha. And if he knew what it meant, he would have hard time believing it. Because uske naam ka matlab tha Lord of Universe. And his condition in which he was living was totally opposite to it. बहुत contradictory condition थी. The meaning of the name was Lord of Universe, और वो कहाँ रहता था? He was a rag picker. He was a poverty-stricken child, and he did not have any good means of living. So she said, अगर उसे अपने नाम का मतलब पता होता, तो उसे विश्वास करने में बहुत मुश्किल होती. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like morning birds and disappear at once. Now she says, unaware of such things. Is she say unaware? She say bekhabar. He used to roam around the streets with his friends, with an army of barefoot boys. Now, barefoot boys, what do you mean by barefoot children? Barefoot is somebody who does not have any slippers to wear, does not have any chappals, and does not have any shoes to wear. So yes, he used to roam around with his friends, with an army of barefoot boys, and he used to go around with his friends and walk. He used to pick up all the garbage, and then in the afternoon they all used to go back home. So they used to come in around the morning like the morning birds. Morning birds की तरह एक साथ सुबह को निकलते थे, दोपहर तक अपना सारा काम finish off करके they used to go back home. Over the months, I've come to recognize each one of them. Now the author says over the months. That means months गुजरते गुजरते मैं हर किसी को जानने लग गई थी. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. Now guys, the author says धीरे धीरे मैं सबको जानने लग गई थी, and one day I asked one of the rag pickers, why aren't you wearing chappals? तुमने chappals क्यों नहीं पहनी? So he said, my mother did not bring them out from the shelf. मेरी मम्मी ने उन्हें shelf से उतारा ही नहीं है. So जब तक नहीं उतारेंगे, how will I wear them? मैं कैसे पहनूंगा? So she said, even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another, who is wearing shoes that did not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. Now the author says, जब मैंने ऐसे किसी बच्चे से पूछा कि तुमने अपनी चप्पल्स क्यों नहीं पहनी हुई, he said, मेरी मम्मा ने उसे शेल्फ से नीचे नहीं उतारा था, इसलिए मैंने उसे नहीं पहना हुआ. And then only interrupting another friend, उसके दूसरे friend ने बोला, अगर वो उतार भी देती, he would have thrown them off. कोई पहनता भी नहीं, so it's useless. उतारने की जरूरत भी नहीं थी. And the boy who said that, he was wearing shoes that do not match. That was some mismatching shoes. Maybe वो shoes उसको ऐसे किसी garbage heap में पड़े हुए मिले, जो उसने उठा लिया, and he was wearing them now. So she said, I even commented that your shoes do not match, but he did not reply. He just looked at his feet and he shuffled his feet. उसने अपनी feet को देखा और उसने कुछ नहीं बोला. He did not comment on anything. I want shoes, says a third boy, who has never owned a pair all his life. Now, then and there, when she was talking to these two, one third boy, the other boy, he said, I want shoes, मुझे shoes चाहिए. And he said, I have never owned a pair of shoes all my life. मैंने आज तक अपनी life में shoes पहने ही नहीं हैं. So I want a pair of shoes. Children, these lines, my mother, why aren't you wearing chappals? These lines are very important for the questions, or short question which can come in the examination, that what excuse did the rag pickers, did the children give to the author for not wearing slippers? That one said that my mother did not bring down from the shelf. So the other said that if she would have bring them down from the shelf, he would have thrown them off. So please pay attention line by line, आप पूरा सुनिए, so that you get to know कौन सी lines important है, कौन सी lines से questions frame हो सकता है और exams में आ सकता है. So once again, हमने एक important question अभी पढ़ा, which can be, what excuse did the children give to the author for not wearing chappals? Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on the village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one of the explanations. Now, the author says that I have seen so many children, मैंने ऐसे कितने ही children को देखा है who roam around the streets barefoot, जिनके पास actually कुछ पहनने के लिए होता ही नहीं है पैरों में, वो लोग ऐसे ही घूमते रहते हैं, चाहे वो cities हो, चाहे वो village हो. And what I get as one of the explanation from them, अगर मैं उनसे पूछूं तो मुझे क्या एक ऐसा explanation मिलता है, that's very common. That is, it is not the lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot. जो वो लोग मुझे explanation देते हैं, वो लोग मुझे excuse देते हैं अगर मैं उनसे पूछूं कि उन्होंने चप्पल्स क्यों नहीं पहनी हुई. It's just that they say it's our tradition. ये हमारा tradition है कि हम barefoot रहे. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So the author says, I wonder, ये सिर्फ एक excuse है जिसे वो बताना नहीं चाहते, छुपाना, क्योंकि इस excuse से वो अपनी perpetual state, perpetual means ongoing state, जो उनका constant state of poverty है, जिसमें वो रह रहे हैं, जिसमें वो survive कर रहे हैं, उस state को छुपाने के लिए शायद ये उनका excuse है, popular excuse है, that this is a tradition, ये उनकी प्रथा है, to remain barefoot, कि बिना कोई चप्पल या slippers पहने वो लोग ऐसे घूमते हैं. Otherwise, she says, ऐसा कौन बच्चा होगा, ऐसा कौन इंसान होगा, कौन individual होगा, जो कि slippers पहनना नहीं चाहेगा. So she said, whenever I ask them that why don't you wear chappals, all I get to hear is an excuse. that it's a tradition for us to remain barefoot. हमारी प्रथा है कि हम barefoot रहते हैं और शायद वो excuse इसलिए देते हैं because वो अपनी perpetual state of poverty, constant state of poverty को छुपाना चाह रहे हैं, बताना नहीं चाह रहे हैं. They do not want to show off कि हमारे पास कुछ नहीं है. They just want to say नहीं, we are happy, we are satisfied, it's okay. Moving on with the chapter. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. She said, मुझे इससे एक स्टोरी याद आ गई जो कि एक पर्सन ने उडीपी से जो था उसने मुझे एक स्टोरी सुनाई थी. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. Now she says एक person ने from Udupi he was, and he told the author a story that once he was a boy, जब वो एक छोटा बच्चा था, he would go to school past an old temple. एक टेम्पल के को क्रॉस करके उसका स्कूल था जहाँ पे वो रोज जाता था और उस टेम्पल में उसके फादर प्रीस्ट थे. So whenever he used to cross the temple, he would stop at the temple. वो टेम्पल के रुकता था और प्रे करता था भगवान से. He used to pray to God that he want a pair of shoes because he said that they were so much poor they could not afford a pair of shoes. So he used to go there at the temple and used to stop there and used to pray for a pair of shoes कि मुझे pair of shoes चाहिए. 30 years later, I visited the town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. So the author says, 30 साल बाद, after 30 years, I have visited his town. मैं उसके town में गई और उस temple में भी, which was now drowned in the air of desolation, जो कि काफी destruct हो चुका था, काफी destroy हो चुका था. वहाँ पे कुछ नहीं था, sort of बंजर हो गया था. There was nothing all around. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. She says, जब मैं वहाँ गई उसके backyard में अपना एक नया priest रहता था. There was a new priest, and at his home there were white and red plastic chairs. And she said, जब मैं वहाँ गई तो what she saw a young boy. He was dressed in a uniform and he was wearing socks and shoes, and he arrived panting. मतलब as बच्चे करते ना आवाज करते करते shoes से, he arrived panting and he came and he threw his school bag on a folding bed. उसने आते ही अपना school bag उतार के folding bed पर फेंक दिया. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Now she says, उस बच्चे को देखकर, looking at the boy, I remembered the story जो मुझे उस इंसान ने सुनाई थी, this man ने सुनाई थी, who was from Udupi, and how he said that when he got a pair of shoes, जब उसे shoes मिल गए थे, तब उसे एक और prayer आ गई थी. एक और prayer which he used to go to the temple and do that was, let me never lose them. Please ये अब मेरे को मिल गए हैं तो मुझसे ये नहीं बिछड़ने चाहिए, ये shoes मेरे पास ही रहने चाहिए. And the goddess had granted his prayer. और वो prayer उसकी grant हो गई थी because he never lost his shoes after that. So she says that now I feel so happy that at least this boy, he was wearing shoes. और उसे देखकर मुझे याद आ गया था उस man की कहानी. When he was a young boy, he used to go to the temple and say that I want a pair of shoes because he did not have a pair of shoes. They could not afford a pair of shoes. And जब उसको वो shoes मिल गए, he had another prayer that he don't want to lose them now. And the goddess, she even granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of priest now wore shoes, but many others like the rag pickers in my neighborhood remained shoeless. Now she said कि young boys, आजकल के जो young boys हैं, yes, अब जो नए priest आए हैं, उनके son हैं, they can afford shoes. उनकी families इतनी well off हैं कि वो लोग अपने बच्चों को shoes पहना सकते हैं. But then she said many other rag pickers जो मेरे neighborhood में हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो garbage hunt करते हैं. Those who pick up the garbage in my neighborhood, they are still shoeless. उनके पास अभी भी कोई shoes नहीं है, कोई slippers नहीं है that they can wear. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of the Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. Now this is a very important line, children. She says my acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers, because क्योंकि मैं उन rag pickers को अब जानने लग गई थी, तो मुझे पता चला था कि वो कहाँ रहते हैं, where they live, and they lived in Simapuri. Simapuri is a place on the periphery of Delhi. Periphery means outskirts of Delhi, on the border of Delhi, yet miles away from it. Although this place, Simapuri, she's in the outskirts of Delhi, but it is yet miles away from it. Now, what does this mean? Now, through this phrase, she wants to tell us that although they are living on the border of Delhi, although they are living on the outskirts of Delhi, still their lifestyle, their living standards, the way they earn for themselves is very, very different from the people who live in the city. Here she is trying to explain it to us that although वो जो रैक पिकर्स थे वो सीमापुरी में रहते थे, जो दिल्ली के आउटस्कर्ट्स में था, दिल्ली की बॉर्डर में था, बट स्टिल उनकी जो लाइफ स्टाइल था, उनका जो लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड था, वो बहुत नीचे था. दैट वाज वे डाउन देन दोज पीपल हु यूज्ड टू लिव इन दिल्ली. इसलिए वो ऐसा लगता था कि उसके माइल्स अवे है, बहुत दूर है. ऑल्दो इतना फार नहीं था इफ वी सी इन द टर्म्स ऑफ किलोमीटर्स, बट देन वो फार था, बहुत बहुत माइल्स अवे था इफ वी सी इन द टर्म्स ऑफ देयर living standards. Those who live here are squatters who come from Bangladesh back in 1971. Now the author says, जो यहाँ पे रहते हैं, the people who are living in Simapuri, they all are squatters. They're all refugees, those who left Bangladesh after their homes were destroyed, after the destruction, and they came to Simapuri in a hope to earn their living. Sahib's family is among them. Now she said Sahib's family is one of them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. She said Simapuri was then a wilderness. Simapuri mein kuch nahi tha. It was all flat, empty land all over. There was no vegetation, no people settled there. She said Simapuri tab bhi ek banjar zameen thi aur aaj bhi hai. Instead, now it has structures of mud. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rack pickers. She said, वो अभी भी वैसे ही बंजर जमीन है जैसे कि वो पहले थी. Instead, अब यहाँ पे structures of mud है. That means there are no पक्का houses of bricks and cement. In fact, there are these structures of mud जो कि temporary बनाए गए हैं by the rack pickers. And these houses, they have the roofs of tin and tarpaulin. That means no proper roofs भी नहीं है उनके ऊपर. वो एक temporary roofs, एक temporary structures of mud हैं जो कि उन्होंने अपने लिए बनाए हैं so that they can take shelter in them, so that they can live inside them. कुछ पक्के houses नहीं है उनके. God knows यहाँ पे वो कब तक है. And she said those structures of mud were devoid of any sewage. मतलब वहाँ पे उन्हें कोई facility नहीं थी, कोई sewage facility नहीं है, कोई drainage facility नहीं है. And without any facility, all of them, they're living there, all 10,000 rack pickers. 10,000 is a very big population, is a very huge population. That more 10,000 rack pickers वहाँ रहते हैं एक साथ, all of them without any such facility of sewage or drainage, or they do not even have the running water facility. They have lived here for more than 30 years without any identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters list and enable them to buy the grain. Now the author says they've lived here for more than 30 years. उन्हें यहाँ से 30 साल से भी ज़्यादा हो गए हैं, वो यहाँ रह रहे हैं. And they do not have any identity cards. उनके पास कोई PAN card, कोई आधार कार्ड, कुछ नहीं है. But they have their ration cards. Why? Because that helps them getting their names on the voters list. And they get their ration cards how? Because politicians आते हैं, they get their names on the voters list, they get the ration cards, and with their help of that, they can buy their food grains. So author says उनके पास कोई identity card नहीं है. They do not have any identity card, any आधार card or any PAN card जिससे उनका नाम reveal हो सके, जिससे ये पता चल सके from where they have come. No. They do not hold any identification. Instead, they have the ration cards, because of which they have their names on the voters list. They can vote, and it helps them to buy the grain, food grain for themselves. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris. She said, जब मैंने ऐसी कुछ group of women से पूछा that you do not have any identification cards, कोई आधार कार्ड नहीं है, कोई पैन कार्ड नहीं है, which gives you an identity, you know कि आप कहाँ से आए हो, आपका नाम क्या है. So those women answered that food is more important for survival. That food हमारे लिए ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, हमारे survival के लिए, हमारे रहने के लिए ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है than an identity. और अगर दिन के आखिर में, at the end of the day, we can feed our families, हम लोग पेट भर के खाना खा सकते हैं, and we can go to the bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live in the fields that gave us no grain. She said कि हम यहाँ पे रहना पसंद करेंगे rather than living in the fields जहाँ से हमें कोई grain नहीं मिलता. Now the authors, they were in the tattered saris, they were wearing those tattered means torn saris, fati हुई saris, the very old and torn saris, and they said at the end of the day, we are ready to live here, हमें यहाँ रहने के लिए बिल्कुल तैयार हैं, if this field, if this place provides us with food to eat, अगर हमारा पेट भर सकता है, अगर हमारी families का पेट भर सकता है, then we are more happy to stay here, to live here, rather than going back to the fields that give us nothing. When I asked them why they left the beautiful land of green fields and rivers, and that was the answer they gave the author. जब author ने उनसे पूछा that why did you leave your land? Why did you leave your land which was so green, so beautiful, which had fields and rivers? उतनी अच्छी सी जगह को छोड़कर आप ऐसी बंजर जमीन पे आके क्यों रह रहे हो? Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. Now they say wherever they find food, जहाँ पे उनको खाना मिलता है, they pitch their tents. So वहीं पे अपने tents लगा लेते हैं. They build their homes, and that become their transit homes. That means they're temporary homes where they can live and they can find their food. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rack picking. The children, they grow up here. वो यहीं पे बड़े होते हैं, they become partners in survival. That means they all become partners of each other and they help each other. And the survival in Simapuri is rack picking. Survival as in the only means through which they can have their food, the only means through which they can earn their living is rack picking for them. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of fine art. Now the author wants to say, fine art क्या है? Whenever you do something which you've been doing since years, आप अगर कुछ चीज कर रहे हो बहुत टाइम से, तो आप उसमें स्किल हो जाते हो, आप बहुत उसमें प्रोफिशिएंट हो जाते हो, you gain an efficiency in doing that work. In the same way, यहाँ पे जो rack pickers हैं, उनकी efficiency है rack picking. That means their efficiency is finding garbage. And therefore, the author says that through the years that they have been doing this work for so many years, इतने सालों से वो ये काम कर रहे हैं कि उनके इस काम ने एक फाइन आर्ट का रूप ले लिया है, एक स्किल का रूप ले लिया है, जिसमें वो इतने प्रोफिशिएंट हो गए हैं, इतने एफिशिएंट हो गए हैं, that this seems very easy for them. This seems as if it's a skill. उनके लिए करना बहुत आसान है, and they are used to doing it. Garbage to them is gold. She says garbage to them is gold is very useful because from this garbage comes their food. From this garbage comes something that is useful to them. Maybe sometimes they find money. Maybe sometimes they find something to wear. Maybe sometimes they find another thing which is of their use. So she says that garbage to them is useful. It is not waste for them. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. Now the author says, unke liye it's the daily bread and butter. It's the daily food with which they fulfill their stomachs. And for them, it's the way by which they can live in a house. For them, it's the roof. Leaking roof hi kyun na ho, but at least they're finding a shelter to live in. And therefore, for them, it is very, very important. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is a hope of finding more. Now the author says, एक बार मुझे साहिब ने बोला, I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note. She says, once साहिब he told me that मुझे यहाँ से एक बार कभी कभार कुछ पैसे मिल जाते हैं, कभी कभार एक बार 10 rupee का note भी मिला है. And she said when he was telling this to me, his eyes was lighting up. उसकी आंखों में बहुत चमक थी. He was really excited by it. He was telling this to me that sometimes I even find a rupee note or even a 10 rupee note in the garbage. And she says that this is why they never end up scrounging for something. They never end up hunting for something in the garbage. Guys, we all know एक बार अगर हम किसी चीज में सक्सेसफुल होना शुरू हो जाते हैं, जब हमें कहीं से कुछ रिजल्ट्स मिलने स्टार्ट हो जाते हैं, we try and do this that work again and again in more better way, so that हमें उसके रिजल्ट्स और अच्छे मिल सके. In the same manner, these rag pickers, for them their work was rag picking. And she said, अगर आपको एक बार उम्मीद मिल जाती है, if you find a silver coin in the heap of garbage once, you never stop hunting for more, you never stop scrounging for more, because you always have a hope. आपके पास एक motivation होता है, आपके पास एक hope होता है that maybe you get some more out of it. And therefore, this hope always motivated, always encouraged these rag pickers to hunt for more and more in the garbage heaps. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is a means of survival. Now the author says, isliye, it seems that the children, they have different meaning of garbage in their life, instead of what their parents think it is. For children, it is something wrapped in wonder. वो कुछ जादुई है, कुछ illusion है, from where they can get something. And for parents, it's a means of survival for them. ये ऐसी चीज है जिससे वो अपना पेट भर सकते हैं, जिससे वो they can live. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. Now she says, one winter morning when I was going, I saw Sahib, he was standing by the fenced gate. एक neighborhood club के gate के बाहर वो खड़ा हुआ था, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. And he was watching two young men who were dressed in white and they were playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. So he says when he was watching the game and the author, she goes near him, he said, I like the game. मुझे game बहुत पसंद है और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है इसे यहाँ से खड़े होकर देखना. And then he also tells her that sometimes they even go inside. मैं कभी-कभी अंदर भी चला जाता हूँ. And the gatekeeper lets me use the swing. कभी-कभी gatekeeper, when there is no one around, कोई आसपास नहीं होता, वो मुझे अंदर जाने की permission दे देता है. And he also allows me to use a swing inside. Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. She said, while we were having this conversation, जब हम ये बात कर रहे थे, I noticed that Sahib was also wearing a pair of tennis shoes. And those looked strange with his attire. With his attire means he was wearing this discolored shirt and shorts, जो कि बहुत faded थे, बहुत पुराने से लग रहे थे. And he was wearing the tennis shoes with them, and it looked very strange to me. Someone gave them to me, he says, in the manner of explanation. She says when she looked at the shoes that Sahib was wearing, those were the tennis shoes, they did not match along with his dress at all. He was wearing a discolored shirt, बहुत faded shirt और shorts उसने पहने हुए थे, जो कि शायद बहुत पुराने होंगे. And she said when she was looking at them, Sahib ने उसे explanation दिया. He gave an explanation to her that someone has given these shoes to him. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them. She said maybe the fact is that these are the shoes, these tennis shoes are one of those shoes, they have been discarded by some rich boy. किसी rich boy ने जिसके पास ये shoes होंगे, उसने इसे discard कर दिया, फेंक दिया, just because it had a hole in it. It had a hole in one of the shoes. But this fact, it did not bother him. This fact does not bother Sahib, because after all, he got to wear a pair of shoes. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole in it is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. And the author says, एक ऐसा इंसान, for a person who has always walked barefoot, who has never ever owned a pair of shoes, even a pair of shoes with a hole in it is a dream come true for him. उसके लिए तो ये जैसे सपना सच होने जैसा है, because he is wearing those shoes now. But the game he is watching so intently, but the game which he is watching, जो tennis का game वो देख रहा है, that is maybe जो इतना interest के साथ वो देख रहा है, that is actually out of his reach. वो उसकी reach के बहुत बाहर है, उसकी पहुंच से बहुत बाहर है. And while reading this, we get to know that how we people have so much with us. हमारे पास कितनी सारी चीजें हैं, and we always tend to take all of that for granted. We never appreciate, we never acknowledge for all that we have, and we always crave for having more and more and more. And then if you look at the lives of these children, they hardly have anything. And whatever they get, they are contented. They try to be satisfied with them because even the littlest of things are wonder for them. Is something which is a dream for them. Continuing with the chapter. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. Now this morning when the author comes across Sahib, she says that Sahib was on his way to the milk booth. Now milk booth is a dairy. So when he was going there, he had a steel canister, he had something in his hand, he had a container in his hand, a steel container in his hand. And he told the author that now I work in a tea stall down the road. Now he was pointing his finger in the distance somewhere, and he was telling author, वो अपनी finger दूर से इशारा करते हुए बता रहा था that there is a place, there is a tea stall, and I work there. I am paid 800 rupees in all my meals. He said, वहाँ पे मुझे 800 rupees मिलते हैं as my salary and all my meals. पूरे दिन का मेरा खाना भी मुझे वहाँ पे provide किया जाता है. Does he like the job? I asked. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. Now she said, I asked him, मैंने उससे पूछा, does he like the job? Do you like the job? His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. She said, and then I noticed at his face. And now his face was no more carefree. वो बिल्कुल वैसा carefree look उसके face पे नहीं था जब वो जो तब होता था when he was a rat picker. When he used to roam around the streets with his friends, with his army of barefoot boys from here to there. वो face, वो look उसके पास से, that innocent look was lost now. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly. Over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Now here, the author is trying to draw comparison. She says when he was a rat picker, he used to have his bag, his plastic bag, that might seem to be lighter on his shoulder because उस time पे वो bag उसका था. He was his own master. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted. He was carefree. He was allowed to go wherever he wanted to go. He used to roam around the places. कोई था नहीं उसके ऊपर उसको rule करने वाला, उसको बताने वाला that what he has to do and what not he has to do. But this time, he had a canister in his hand. He had a container in his hand which did not belong to him, but to the owner of the tea shop where he worked. So Sahib was now no longer his own master. She said, now this time when I saw Sahib, he had lost his carefree look. He was all in all became responsible. Uske upar responsibility thi. Why? Because he owned an explanation to the owner of the tea shop. Now he was doing job. Now he was not all his own master. Now there was somebody who was always guiding him, always instructing him, commanding him to do one or the other things. So here we come to the end of our first story, that is the story of Sahib-e-Alam. We will also discuss the question and answers after we end with the chapter. कोई वीडियो पसंद आया, आपको चैप्टर समझ में आया, so guys, you may like, share and subscribe and stay tuned for the next part of the video.